People, how you all doing? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Bilikis, and in today's class we'll be learning how to make this lovely sleeveless top with this massive and stylish collar. Yes, it is very easy to make, and this is to tell you today's class will be very interesting. And if today's your first time of checking out my channel, you're welcome, and please make sure you subscribe. You can check out my other channel, Pattern Drafting with Bilikis and Bilikis Kitchen. Follow me on Instagram, Bilikis Signatures, and on Facebook, Sewing Innovations. So right now, let's get to work. Ted, you need to cut out both the front and the back bodies. That's the most important step first. You can do all I'm doing directly on your fabric. Yes, because we're adding all the seam allowance, but because I want it to be more visible, let me do that on the pattern paper. So the first thing you need to insert the length of the bodice from the nape of the neck to the waist. So here I have 17 inches plus seam allowance. So you should do that. The next thing will be half of your armhole measurement, which is 8 inches. Then the next thing will be from the nape to the bust level or bust point, which is 11 for her. I'm using a medium size measurement. Then the length of to the waist. The next thing you're going to do is the 3 inches 8 inches standard. So measure 3 inches, mark a point, then 8 inches, mark a point. And from the 8 inches you come down by 1 inch. At that point you connect it to the 3 inches. That is to get the shoulder slope. After that, then you insert the shoulder measurement. For her it is 15, and half of that is 7.5. Come on the armhole, half of the armhole measurement line, and mark the same thing. Now we have this. So the next thing you're just going to do is to insert the bust measurement. Our bust circumference is 38, and when you divide that by 4, you're going to have 9.5. So 9.5 plus the seam allowance for the side, let's say 1 inch, that will make it 10.5 inches. And that is it. So let's just cuff out the armhole. So what you're going to do is to get the midpoint here. But note, this dress we are trying to make is a sleeveless dress. So you won't want to maintain the same armhole measurement, yes. So all you are doing when you are making a sleeveless dress is to come in from this actual shoulder line by 3/4 of an inch. So 3/4 is here. For a plus size, you can make it up to 1 or 1.5, depending on how much shoulder you want to show off. So having done that, you can then connect your armhole. So you're going to do the same thing to the back. So that's good. The next thing is to insert the dart. Here you are going to need the bust span measurement. That is the distance from one nipple to another. For her it is 8. When I divide that by 2, I'm going to have 4. This is on the bust level or bust point. Then come to the waist here, 4. At this point, you come down by 1 inch. For a plus size person, make it 1.5. Then here, just half an inch on both sides for somebody that is not busty. But for somebody that is busty, you can make it 3/4 inch on both sides. 3/4 inch over here, 3/4 inch over here. Like for myself, I could even make it up to 1 inch, depending on how busty you are. That's good. The next thing you're going to do is to insert the waist measurement. Our waist circumference is 30 inches, and when I divide that by 4, I'm going to have 7.5. And note, we have taken 1.5 dart measurement, which has to be added back to the measurement. So here, first we had 7.5. After dividing the waist circumference, then I'm going to have the 1.5 to it, and that's going to give me 9. 9 inches will be here, plus the 1 inside seam allowance, that will make it 10. All this can be done directly on your fabric. After doing that, for the neckline, it is a V-neck. So all you have to do is either to maintain the 3 inches, but for a medium-sized person, make it 3.5. 3.5 is here. For myself, I'll make it 4. Then the depth, I can make it between 6 to 6.5. So for her, I can make it 6. For myself, I can make it 6.5 to 7. Then you use this straighter part of your armhole curve to connect it. That's it. The last thing will be to add half an inch seam allowance. That's all I have to do now is to just cut this all half. This is what I have for the front. So if you're cutting directly on your fabric, it has to be on fold. Note that. Now let's move to the back. The back, it is just the same way, the same process for the back. So make sure 17 inches here, then half of the armhole. You don't need the bust point at the back. There's no breast at the back. Then you are going to insert the 3 inches, 8 inches standard, come down by 1 inch, then insert the 7.5 for the shoulder seam allowance. After then, you come in by 3/4 inch and then from your armhole the same way we did it the other time. Now for the darts, all you have to do is to insert half of the bust span, which is 4 inches, just like for the back. The same thing here, 4 inches. And at the back, because there's no bust at the back, just half an inch on both sides, unlike 3/4 we did in the front. Just connect it to the 1 inch you came down by. That's all. Now let's just insert the waist circumference. So the waist circumference is 30 divided by 4, that will be 7.5. Here we took 1 inch that will be 8.5, plus side seam allowance 1 inch, 9.5. So we are through with the back, just the neckline. The neckline at the back just has to be 1 inch. The same thing we did in front, 3.5. Can you see that? Good. So we are done with the back. So all I have to do is to cut out. Then don't forget hard zip allowance. That's very important. You have to add your zipper allowance when you are cutting it. So I'm just going to cut that out. This is what the pattern looks like. So this will have to be unfold, and this will have to separate one because there's going to be a zipper. So before we draft out the collar, the first thing I'm going to do is to just cut it out on the fabric and the lining. The back, I added the zipper allowance. So this is what I will be having. This is the main fabric, this is the lining. So the back has to be 2. Can you see that? For the zipper allowance. Then for the front, that has to be on fold. Can you see what we have? So that is it. And also the lining. So now let us cut out the collar. Need on plain paper, then your basic bodies, both the front and the back, or your fabric if you are using that. So now the back has to be facing downward wide, the shoulder has to match, neckline, armhole. That's important. So just place that. I will have to place that down. Then you need to determine how long your collar should be. So for me, with seam allowance, I'll just make it 8 inches. So you have to note, with the paper being off, 8 inches, that's fine. Then these are the seam allowance. So this line has to match with this line. So just take your time to do all that. And fold this. Good. Yeah, that's good. So after doing that, just have to stick it down. Then we need to note, because for the front there's an extension, so I want the extension to be about 4.5. So 4.5, so that's enough, that's fine. So you can just secure That's fine. So now we can start drafting the collar. So first I want to trace out the neck. Or you can use your tracing wheel for that, so just to make it easy. That's good. So this part has to be straight as the back. So it doesn't have the seam allowance. You don't have to add seam allowance to that because you still want it to be open at the back to show up the zipper. Then we can start measuring 8 inches. Then you need to make an extension for the front. As I've told you, I want that to be 4.5 inches. So just take your time. So let me check. I still have to extend it. So 4.5, so that's at this point. And you see, so I'm just going to keep measuring 8 inches. And the next thing is for me to use the straighter part, connect it all. See how I did that? So easy. So the collar is formed. At this part, you need to just make it stylish. You can make it straight if you want. If you are making it straight, that means you have to measure whatever you want here. Yeah. Okay. Then you have to measure it straight until you get to this point. But let's just make it stylish, making it a little bit slanted. Let's have something like this. You can have it either straight, that totally depends on your preference. Beautiful, it is formed. At this stage, we are going to need our tracing wheel. Why is that? Because we have a paper here and we have to remove it. So all you have to do is to go this way. Good. And here, that's on the pattern. Okay, good. Then another thing we have to do, this will be on the right side or on the left side. Then for the other side of the collar, that one has to be shorter from the back to somewhere around here in the front. So all you have to do is to measure, like, let's say 4 inches is okay, or 4.5 from the shoulder. So this is 4.5. Can you see? And you just have to connect. So that's it. So here we have 2 patterns in just one draft. So also these just mark. You will understand as we go on. So now I can remove. So with the tracing wheel now, I can see that that is the usefulness of the tracing wheel. So this is the straight line. Can you see the collar? So now this is one collar. This whole draft is one collar for one side, while from here to this point is for another part. So we have left and right. You can see that is very easy. So all I'll do is to cut this out. So this is what it looks like. So what I'll do now is to place this on a fabric. I have to cut out 2 for each. So first I'll cut a hole like this. That will be 2. After that, I will now have to cut this off. So only cut this out. So this is it. I have 2. Can you see that? So set that aside. Then I have to cut this off. So this is off. So I'm going to cut this the same way. Cut out the other collar, as you can see that. So looking at this, you should understand what we are trying to do. So this will be for the zipper area. This is the shoulder line, the other one, and the short collar. So that's it. So now let's start sewing up the dress. The first thing you have to do is to take in your dart on both the main fabric and the lining. So this is it for the front. So I have to take in the dart on the main fabric and then the lining also for the back. Then for the collar, all you have to do is this. Take it one by one, and then for a collar, it is advisable you use an interfacing to stabilize your fabric. That is very important, but because I'm making a tutorial, I just have to skip that part. But please ensure you use an interfacing. This is a paper stay just to make it stable. That's very important. So what you do now is make sure the right side are facing each other. After that, all you have to do is to start sewing from here, 1/2 inch all down back up. So only the neckline should be open. You do the same thing for the full one, starting from here down, closing it up. This part has to be open. So let's just do that. I have sewn the darts, as you can see. This is one for the back. So I've sewn each one. Let's see. And also the front. You can see I've sewn the darts facing each other. Then for the collar, I've turned this to the right side. So looking at it, the most important thing you need to do is to notch. Which can you see? You have to notch these areas, and then just trim this off and then turn it inside out to have something like this and give it a good press. The next stage is for us to join the shoulders, right side facing each other. This is the wrong side. We left 1/2 inch. Just sew that here. The same thing, you sew that up, and you do the same thing to the lining. Then we can join the front and the back by the shoulder, and this is what I have. I did that for the lining. So let's go back to the collar. So this is what the collar looks like. So this will be for this part, you see, and this very one will be for this part. And you see what we have, and this is just going to go over this way. So another quick thing we need to do before we start sewing it down is this. So just note the point here. This is the V, the end of the V. Just note that here, and then you have to go back to the sewing machine with this particular one. Turn it back to the wrong side, and we have to close that because that will be showing outside. So I'm just going to go back, just sew 1/2 inch and stop there. So that's to that point. I can now bring it out. Just notch it. Always notch. That's what I have. Can you see that? So I'm going to place it back. So can you see what we have now? So this place is neatly done. So we're going to go back to the sewing machine. So can you see this now? This is the zipper allowance, and this is going to be in. At the end of the day, you have something like this, which is nice. So just take your time to pin it down. Then you have to pin this down also. Then you take it back to your sewing machine and just sew in 1/2 inch and stop here at the V. And also you do the same thing and stop here. Attach the collar to the top, as you can see that. So the next thing I'm just going to do is to place the lining on it. So right side facing each other. You see? So we had to secure it first. That was why we did all that. So initially, I attached the collar to the main fabric by 1/4 inch. So now I will be sewing in 1/2 inch because the underseam must not show at all. So can you see what I have? So I'll take it back to the sewing machine and just sew this down, go back up. I've attached the lining, and another important thing I did was to notch. That is very, very important, especially when you are dealing with curves. That's important. On the right side, can you see how that looks? So all I have to do now is to put it to the right side. So just put the lining inside. And let's see how it comes. The right side, and you can see how it looks like. So beautiful. So the next thing now we are going to do is to finish up the side and the armhole area, since it is a sleeveless top. So what you are going to do now is this. You're going to open this and put all this inside. So you're going to do something like this. And pin it down. Then you take this to push all this inside, bring this out. Can you see? Put everything inside. And then this way you're going to have. Take your time so that you don't sew up others to eat. Can you see that? That's how you are going to go all about it. Once you've pinned it all around, the next thing is to sew up the armhole first. After turning it to the right, that is when we will finish up the sides. So, but it is better you secure it well to make it neat and accurate. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine now. Make sure you do not sew up the materials inside along the armhole. So I'm just going to sew it from here to here, 1/2 inch. On the armhole area, I can remove the pins here. So just pull it out gently. Good. Can you see what the armhole area looks like now? So I'm just going to give it a good press. Can you see? So this is what it's going to look like. So can you see the armhole? Make sure you notch it. That's because I've not notched the inside. That is why there are some creases. So I'm just going to notch it and give it a good press. So can you see that? So, and this part is still open. So we are going to do the same thing to the other side. That is, open this up. Can you see this way? Pull this in with the lining here. Do the same thing to this area, and then you sew the armhole the same way and pull it out. I've sewn the other armhole and I've notched it. So the next thing is to pull it out the same way. Gently, don't rip your both apart. Can you see how neat the other side is too. Can you see that? So I really need to do a good job on the ironing board, and this is what we have. You see, that's so beautiful. So both sides, the armhole are done. I'm just going to press it up. Can you see that? So the last thing you are going to do, please, you need to press your seams. So I'm going to do all that now. The next thing I'm going to do is this. Can you see? This is it, front, back. So from here. Okay, can you see? Then to the lining, that's easy. From here, one inch seam allowance we left for the side, just so that all is here. Do the same thing to the other side, and that's all. Beautiful it looks. As you can see that, looking at the armhole, can you see? So beautiful. Can you see? And the other side too, can you see that? I'm just going to show you the back so that you see what it looks like. Can you see that? All you have to do is to attach your zipper. You see? So what I will do now is to place it on the mannequin for you to see. So ravishing. You can see the result of the top we've just made. All you have to do is to attach it to your skirt, your peplum, or however you want to make your dress. So what I'm going to do now is to turn the back for you to see beautiful as the front. Make sure you give it a try. So for our monthly online classes and sewing tools, please use the contact number in the description box below. I have to go. Bye guys.